Welcome back to the Tipsy Tennis Podcast. I am your host, Adam Borak, and we are at episode 3. We've been drinking beers, we've been hitting tennis balls, and we've been breaking serves and hearts. In this episode, I bring on my friend who played juniors with Novak Djokovic and Viktor Troicki, and later on went to play for an American University Division I tennis. If you haven't followed me on Instagram at Tipsy Tennis Podcast, please do. And please let me introduce you to this week's guest, Nenad Radakovic. Welcome to the Tipsy Tennis Podcast. I bring to you the guest, the biggest bitch in tennis I know, the small guy who doesn't know how to fight, Nenad Radakovic. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
A tradition to start off the podcast. We're going to shotgun some beers.
Oh, yeah.
When's the last time you did a shotgun? Do you know what that is?
Actually, it was last time I was in college, I would say. I guess I have no choice, man.
How do you say cheers in Serbian?
It's živeli.
Živeli.
Živeli. Wow.
Nice.
Woo!
Get the energy going. All right. So,
This was good.
you're a tennis player, obviously.
Yes.
That's why you're here.
Mm-hmm.
Serbian tennis player, grew up in Serbia.
Correct.
How'd you get started playing tennis?
I actually saw a commercial on the TV. My father told me when I was 5 years old that the TV was on, and one of the famous tennis players back in the day, Slobodan Živojinovic. He was
How do you say it?
Slobodan Živojinovic, or his nickname was Boba Živojinovic. He was a very good doubles player. So he was opening academy in Belgrade, and they had this commercial on the TV. And my dad told me when I saw a commercial that I went crazy about
You saw it? Yeah,
about tennis, and he thought that it's gonna stop after a few days. But supposedly I was very persistent with it, and then he decided to bring me to that place, and that's where I started playing tennis. And this was like when I was, I would say, 5 years old.
How old are you now? 30?
I'm 35 now.
35?
Yes.
How old's Djokovic?
Djokovic is 30, I think same age, 35 as well.
35?
Yeah.
You've played with him, right?
Yes,
As a junior?
actually, as a matter of fact, I know I met his coach as well, Jelena Gencic. She was a wonderful lady, very, very, very strict. Unfortunately, she passed away, I would say, a few years ago. Very strict lady, and she was all about technique, right? And she would go to all the tournaments with him, because since we were the same age, I would see him at almost every tournament. But the funny story was, like, I will never forget, I would say that he started playing tournaments when he was around 7-8 years old. Before, or maybe a little bit older, but before that, I never seen him in my life, right? I never played against him, and I was seated number one at this tournament where I was playing. And in the first round, this small kid shows up to play against me, and I was like, first round, nobody knew this kid. Usually when we were kids, we would go to others. Hey, did you play against him? What is his bad spot, etc., etc. But nobody knew this kid, right? And he was super small, very skinny, and I was very big for my age. And I thought, like, this is going to be a piece of cake, but he kicked my ass.
Really?
I will never forget, yes. And so that's the first time I played against him, destroyed me. And I played multiple times against him after that. And
All in juniors?
All in juniors. Unfortunately, I lost every time. But he was really, really, really good, even when he was young. So
you're joining the club on that one.
yeah, as you know.
What other tennis players I know you're friends with Troicki.
Yeah, I used
Viktor.
to practice with Troicki back in the day together at the same tennis club. We used to hang out for like many years, travel together. His father used to know my father, and we would travel to tournaments together as well. His father was a legend, obviously. But Viktor he's a great guy. He didn't have such good technique like Novak, but he had such a good head, and even if he would be down, I don't know, 6-3, 4-0, the guy would not stop. He would just keep playing all the way to the end. And as a child, I remember he would just, so many matches that you would think that he lost, he would just somehow pull up and end up winning. And my father used to always critique me every time you're losing, if you lose the first set, that's it, you're done. The second set, you get destroyed. But look at Viktor, he's like... Anyway, interesting story.
What was the culture like in Serbia? Because I feel like you're 35, Troicki's a little bit 35, Tipsarevic, he just retired.
A little bit older. Tipsarevic is, I believe, 38, 39.
Was there like a boom during that time?
Not really. Kids used to play tennis, but not that much, not even close how much they play right now, because you have to remember, I was born in 1986, and when I started playing tournaments, this was like 1992, 1993, a huge inflation. We went through all the wars in ex-Yugoslavia, so the economy was doing really, really bad, right? And tennis is expensive sport, as you know. And back in the day, we used to have German marks that we would use back in Serbia, aside from our currency, correct? And the rackets used to be 200 marks, which is like one racket, which is equivalent to 200 euros, I would say, or $200 right now. Yeah. 20 years ago, 30 years, almost 30 years ago.
Wow.
So not many kids, obviously, but still decent amount. And what's really interesting, most of my generation, and maybe a few years younger, a few years older, most of them went pretty much to college. Obviously, first they tried professionally, and then they went to college, to US.
What's the transition like for like European or out of country players getting recruited to colleges in the US? Because you probably had a ranking. You said you're top 30 in juniors, men's, and
yes. I mean, you have to first, you have to have a decent ranking, and then you have to send a video of you practicing and playing matches, and then the coaches evaluate the way you play, and also they want to. You have to pass certain exams. SAT is here, and for. Also for Europeans, TOEFL, which is also like a English exam that you have to have pretty good results in order to get to college.
But you played at a good school, Hofstra.
Hofstra, yes.
In Hampstead, right?
Long Island, yeah, Hampstead, correct. Yeah, it's a pretty good school. They had a decent tennis team. Most of us were international. A few guys from Serbia. We had a guy from Korea. A few Americans.
A Polish guy.
We had a famous Polish guy. I'm sure we're gonna talk about him later. And who else? We had a guy from Norway as well. So it's very, very international group.
Do you think that there should be rules that govern how many international players you're allowed to bring into your university?
That's very interesting. I mean, depends. Depends how you look at it. Yes and no. If you look at let's say English soccer, right? Most of the soccer players are international soccer players. So you can look this from two perspectives, right? Number one is you're bringing such a good players from foreign countries, and with these international players, the players from the country where they're playing will be able to play with them, practice with them, and improve even more, right? So this is one aspect, and the other aspect is like, oh, you're bringing so many international guys
to
the team. There are no rooms for us, right? So it depends how you look at it. In my opinion, I work for a big corporation now, and I used to work for other corporations before. You have to diversify your tennis team, your school as well, and I think the more international you bring, it's better. And again, it's a fair game. You can always apply. If you think you're better than the other guy, you can always ask to play. You can show results, and then that's it. Yeah.
If there's one rule you could change about tennis, what would it be?
College tennis or professional tennis?
Let's do professional tennis.
I would say like in college, if you hit the serve and you hit the net, you play. You're supposed to play.
Now
You
it
don't
does. They
repeat.
changed it recently.
Yeah, so I would do the
Last-
same thing in professional.
So you think they should play lets?
Yes, they should, correct.
You're trying to hit this ball 100 miles an hour over the net and still have it drop in. So naturally, the ball is going to be much closer to the net versus like you're rallying. You could have like a ton of space between the net, and so you know you're naturally going to be hitting the net a little bit more on your serve rather than everything else. But I see why it makes sense to play the let, because if you hit a forehand, tips the net and goes over, you play the point. If the guy doesn't get it, it's your point.
Yeah.
Same thing. And it can be double-sided. You see sometimes like the ball it hits the net and like jumps up, and then that's just like a ball waiting for the other guy.
Yeah,
but other
yeah.
times it hits it and rolls over.
But most of the time they just like...
It just rolls over.
And I would say the other rule that I would definitely think about changing, I'm not 100%, is I would not play advantage. So when you get
No
to
ads?
deuce, no ads. When you get to deuce, whoever wins the point, that's it.
So they also do that. They switched that up for college tennis as well
Oh, they did?
within the last maybe 5 years.
All the schools?
Yep.
Really?
Yep.
There is no advantage?
No ads.
Oh, I didn't know
No
that.
ads, and they play lets. This is what they
Wow.
changed both of those rules in the same season. I'd say maybe like 5 years ago. The only thing that made me they did it so it's a little bit quicker. The
It's
matches
quicker,
aren't as long.
Yes, yes.
If I'm a player and I'm playing in this in this format, I'm gonna go to the gym a lot less. I'm not gonna go as much because fitness is not as important because the matches are like capped to how long they could be, and so the extra hours I'm not spending in the gym, I'm gonna be spending working on my serve, because then that becomes much more important. You get to add, and working this kind of stuff in.
Well, in my opinion...
It favors big servers rather than people who grind it out a little more,
Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah, I agree. But also, like, I think that what's very important is, like, how you have college soccer player, college football players, college basketball players, they have a decent chance to go to play professionally after college. Tennis is not so great when it comes to this, except maybe a few schools. So the reason why I just said this is, if you wanna, although you have small chances to become a professional, it's very important to have same rules in college and in the professional tournaments, because let's hypothetically, let's take top 10 players that will go pro after college or during college. They're coming from one rule. Net is not a big thing, right? That's like a small thing, you can adjust to that. But now playing advantage versus not playing advantage, that's a huge thing. It's a huge difference.
I mean, you look at like basketball, for example. In college basketball, they play 2 halves rather than 4 quarters.
That's true. You're right.
You're seeing a lot more, especially out of the Americans. And you actually see in some other nationality of players that they play in college and then they transition to pro. Like Mackenzie McDonald was a great college player. He won the Isner, Blake. Then there's this German guy, Kopfer, was in it. I think Brooksby was it, Stevie Johnson. And what is interesting, and I never really considered this before, where like the path for a professional tennis player is like, you play juniors, you build a ranking, and then you slowly break into like try to break into the higher tournaments from there. Where it makes sense. You don't hit your prime as like an athlete until like 25 to like 28 years old.
Correct. Yeah.
And so to put so much pressure on these like young guys that are 18 years old, it's like you go pro, you're not. It's the make it or break it. It makes a lot of sense to go to college for 4 years, play there, because you also have the facilities. You have a coach. Maybe he's not your personal coach, but you have a coach. You have a team. You have a regimen to be going to the gym. You have the facilities. And this is something that all of the colleges are paying for. And then it's a ton of tennis. I didn't play varsity tennis. I mean, you did. My brother did. and the general idea of it was tennis, and then school.
Yeah.
Like, you're playing every single day, and if you're not playing every single day, you're in the gym all these other days. You do that for 4 years. I feel like that's a formula to start making more pros.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good structure.
Well, unfortunately, college tennis is not even close to the level of professional tennis.
No.
And I would, I don't know if you can really change it, if it's really possible, because it's, again, individual sport. You really have to be good in so many aspects. It's not like, you have one bad day, then the others will, cover.
There's no tapping out.
Exactly. So, but this would be really interesting if schools, or I don't know, whoever would be in charge would work on this and maybe help college players have better chances to transition to a professional world, tennis professional world, of course.
Well, how many countries have you played in?
You've been traveling tournaments?
Yeah.
I would say around 15.
15?
Yeah. Mostly around Serbia, Western Europe, US, and once in Tunisia, in Africa, and Egypt as well.
And Egypt.
So, yeah.
What's your favorite thing about traveling for tournaments? What's your most
so favorite definitely is you're seeing different cultures, different players, different clubs, different atmosphere. It's exciting, but what used to be very difficult is you get there at night, you play in the morning, you have not enough time between the matches, and you travel so much, and obviously you don't have so much money to go there and stay 3 days, to arrive 3 days before the tournament, and it was expensive, so you literally arrive the morning of the tournament or the night before, so just adjusting the time difference and to the surface right away, it used to be quite tough.
What's the craziest thing you've seen traveling?
Craziest thing seeing traveling. Definitely a parent and a kid arguing, getting into the argument, and a kid leaving the match in the middle of the argument.
In the middle of the match?
Yes. They would, yell at their kids, and scream at them if they would, lose the point or lose the match. And it was actually very often that you would see a father and the son screaming at each other from him being on the tennis court and the father being in the crowds. So at one moment, I seen it many times. The kid would just leave the rackets and just go. And another thing is in one of the tournaments when I was junior, one of the guys that I know, obviously I'm not going to mention his name, he just took out all his rackets from the bag and just broke them all.
Oh, shit.
He lost the match. Yeah.
So you played tennis in college with Rocket Man.
Yes. Correct.
Tell us a little bit about this teammate.
He's
got a few nicknames. What are his other nicknames?
Master of Disaster.
Master.
Titanic. What else?
Veggie Stick.
Veggie Stick, yeah. Mr. Pizza, and the newest one is a Rocket Man, and yeah.
Because I know
Rocket Man is a character. This is the guy that
he would be perfect for the podcast.
Oh yeah, 100%.
He is the guy you want.
He would kill it. Rocket Man is the best guy ever. He's so much fun. This guy really unfortunately has no manners, but in a way it's just so funny because everything comes you see things that he does that you never seen in your life. I'll tell you a few funny stories. One of them was we were traveling somewhere, I don't know which college was it, and playing against them, and he won against this kid who barely knew how to hold the racket, and he won 6-0, 6-0. And his parents were watching the match. So he went to the net to shake his hands with this kid, and he shook his hand and he said, "Oh, this was the worst match I ever played in my life," in front of his parents. And he won 6-0, 6-0. I mean, it's he was really practicing hard. When he's focused, he could beat anyone, but when he's out, he's completely out. Actually, I have an interesting question for you. Let's say, hypothetically, two people say yes to interview with you, but you have to choose one. Tsitsipas or Kyrgios?
Kyrgios.
Who would you choose?
Kyrgios.
Kyrgios, okay.
Without it. That's
Okay.
not even a question.
Okay, just
Like,
just
remember
wondering.
the interview? Kyrgios was like,
Do I know you from the bar?
you were at
from
the pub last night.
I did see this. This was funny.
That's-
This was funny. Yeah.
That would be cool.
I like the idea because like I know few guys who are really traveling on the tour and they're interviewing tennis players. They're talking the way they're practicing, technique, how they're improving, etc., etc. But nobody really does something like this.
But on that note, I think now is a good time to wrap it up.
Good.
On the count of three, I point at the camera and say, "Stay tipsy."
Let's go again.
One more time. 1, 2, 3.
Stay tipsy. Oh man, you killed me.